Thursday, May 15th, 2025. Thank you for making me a part of your day. As always, a free way you can support this channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Leave a comment in the comment section, all for the algorithm. But otherwise, let's go ahead and dive on into this. An update from Glassnode. What are we looking at from Glassnode here? We're seeing whales. We're seeing small wallets distribute. Small wallets, I'm not concerned about small wallets, like less than 1 Bitcoin, 1 to 10 Bitcoin, kind of neutral for the 10 to 100 cohort, but the 10,000 plus cohort has gone a little bit neutral, still accumulating a bit, but then still heavy accumulation with the 1K to 10K cohort and the 100 to 1K cohort. So what do we take from this? Well, it's not as bullish as last week, essentially, but, and I wouldn't even say we're running out of steam or anything like that. I would say that the largest whales are slowing down a little bit. We can even see this with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. They've slowed down a little bit. They're still in accumulation, but they're not buying $1 billion of Bitcoin in a given day. All right. So what does that mean? That means that, it means we're still fine. It doesn't mean to the moon, super bullish tomorrow. And it also doesn't mean that we're going to dump from here. This is perfectly fine where we are right at this moment. And we'll see where we go from here. So moving on, speaking of we'll see where we go from here, how would you like this? I would not like this at all, but I always want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So Zhao Wedson says, hypothetically, if this happens to Bitcoin, would you be prepared? What is this? It is a move pretty much straight down from here to the 60s for Bitcoin. And when would we bottom out? July of 2025. And then we'd start the big parabolic rally towards the end of the year. And then it would be over in 2026. A somewhat typical 4-year halving cycle thought process here, including the fact that the post-halving year, every time we have bottomed out in July. We've had a summer lull, 2021, 2017, 2013. We've had a summer lull where things got pretty dumpy in July. And then the bottom, I remember this July 20th of 2021, that was the bottom of that mini gully where Bitcoin went from $64,900 to below $30,000. And so could this happen again? Well, here's another thing to keep in mind is that historically, when this has happened, Bitcoin has gone down, and this was a moment of peak fear, to its 1.618 retrace from its previous cycle top to its bear market bottom. So this move down in July of 2025, if you're seeing where 2021, excuse me, if you're seeing where my mouse is, was the 1.618 retrace. We wicked below, but didn't have a weekly close below the 1.618 retrace, and then climbed and rallied to a new all-time high. So what's the 1.618 retrace this time around? It's $100,000. And so what if instead of this chart, we saw something where Bitcoin continued to rally, go to, 120, 130, something like that. And then a moment of peak fear would be in July going down to the 1.618 retrace of $100,000. That's around $100,000. But it's all speculation. I don't think this scenario is going to play itself out. And if it does, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to get wrecked. This would be brutal. And I don't know if I would have it in me to then rally up to new all-time highs at the end of the year. But let's see Zhao Wedson's thought process here. It would be total madness across the crypto community. Yes, revisiting levels below 70K isn't such a far-fetched scenario. We still have a large number of open longs, and Bitcoin hasn't even touched the true market mean price like it did in previous cycles. Okay. See what you're saying there. Will this time be different? I hope the price keeps climbing and sparks new altcoin season in the coming days. But as I mentioned before, 105K alpha price and the months from May to July are typically the time of consolidation or pullbacks, unless we're facing another rare exception. Which it's funny that he says that, because I am going to point out some exceptions that have been happening in 2025, including, let me find it here, okay? This is not what happens in post-halving years. This is Ethereum. Ethereum was down 40 45.41% the first quarter of 2025, first quarter of the post-halving year. First quarter of the post-halving year in 2021, it was up 160%. First quarter of the post-halving year in 2017, it was up 518%. So is this time different? This time, there's plenty of an argument to be made that this time is different. Now, do I believe that Bitcoin is going to get below 70K at some point? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, yes. But over the next couple of months, I have a hard time believing that. And to be fair to Zhao Wedson, this is just a scenario. It's not something that he's saying is absolutely going to happen. He has some other charts here with aggregated liquidation levels and some other things just to pay attention to. Here's the market mean price, and that is what we did. There we go. In 2021 is we had 3 bounces off that level. What a perfect time to buy. This time around, what would be a reason why we wouldn't hit that level? I mean, I would say institutional accumulation, which I know would cause a lot of people to just roll their eyes. But this time has proven itself to be different in many ways. And I believe it will prove itself to be different going into 2026 and 2027. But something to keep in mind, moving on, and I am actually going to address some other things related to this. On a more short-term time frame, okay, Bitcoin archive. Bitcoin just made a bullish cross on the MACD weekly chart, 104K and chilling, beautiful setup. This is something that I've paid attention to. You can see the MACD. You can see the circled part here. The MACD has had a bullish crossover. The MACD histogram looks bullish on the weekly chart. This would align with my mindset, like short term. I'm a bull still, and seeing the MACD climb, it would make sense to me that we would continue to see the MACD climb, the MACD histogram climb for the next few weeks, and then we'll see where we go from there. So you can see that I have that laid out on this chart. I also want to point out stochastic, which I'm not. Let me just zoom in here on MACD. You can see we've had, yes, the bullish crossover. MACD histogram is looking good. I don't have stochastic here. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up stochastic RSI. And what will you see when you see stochastic is just look at, I remember going live with Devin in early March, March heading into April, and looking at stochastic and on the weekly and thinking to myself, you know what? This, no matter what, we should just go up from here on a weekly time frame. We're so oversold on stochastic, regular RSI. We were down in bull run territory at 40 in the 40s. That is typically a bottoming point when you are in a bull market. And so it just seemed like no matter what, that what we had in front of us was bullishness for short-term bullishness, whether that meant a new all-time high or not. And then looking on the monthly, the thing that would slow me down on the monthly is monthly stochastic was not nearly as favorable. We were topping out in March, and we were on our way down. Maybe this time, let's see stochastic on the monthly. Maybe we're going to have another break, another bullish crossover on that. That sounds good to me. So anyway, short term, again, in my opinion, it makes sense to have some level of bullishness. Here's another thing that I would say would communicate some level of bullishness. And so this kind of disagrees with something that Zhao Wedson has said in talking about what the longs look like. He mentions there's some weighted information data pointing to longs. Look at this heat map here. This is a liquidation map update looking at all the exchanges. I mean, all the major ones at least. Binance, BitGet, BitMEX, Bybit, OKX. And you can see these are shorts. This big spike right here is heavy levels of shorts at 104, 105, between 105 and 106, really between 104 and 105. So there's a big wall of resistance on shorts. I wouldn't call it resistance. What I would call it is if we saw Bitcoin break through that wall, its price break through the wall, that would potentially cause some explosive action in short squeezing. Short-term excitement. And then you compare that to this measly wall right here for For longing, it's not anywhere near the same. So long liquidations are set, at $99,000 to $100,000. Let's read what we have here from the Kingfisher. Let me follow him. I wasn't following him yet. Bitcoin liquidation map update. Take a look at the massive cluster of short liquidations sitting right above the current price, concentrated heavily around the 104 to 105 zone. In contrast, long liquidations below the price of around 99 to 101K are far less significant. This notable imbalance makes the upside liquidity zone a strong potential magnet for price action. Understanding where liquidity pools are is crucial. All right, let me stop here for a second. What do Binance, BitGet, and Bitfinex, and Bybit, and OKX, what do they want? How are they going to make money? They are right now going to make money, more money to the upside, a lot more money to the upside than the downside. Okay, so that tends to make me think that short term, what we're going to see is more money being made to the upside for the exchanges, because they always win. They always win. We always lose. Interesting. This is just straight up bullish. What do you want to say? This is just straight up bullish. Bitcoin Magazine, just in corporate Bitcoin purchases have now outweighed the supply of new Bitcoin by 3.3x in 2025. Now, okay, just in, he does the big eye emoji. In 2024, it was the same thing. It was probably even more significant because of the launch of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. But this continues to happen. This continues to happen, where what we're seeing is more Bitcoin purchases than Bitcoin being mined by a significant amount. All right, so does that account for everything? No, it doesn't account for what short-term holders are doing. Short-term holders may buy, may sell. Long-term holders may buy or sell, but this keeps on happening, which is why, I have a hard time believing that we're in 2026, 2027 going to see this massive bear market, aside from if we were to have some kind of global financial crisis, And I do believe that we're going to have something, that we're going to have a recession or something, even though that perspective is being challenged right now. But still, if this is going to continue on a long enough timeline, that's super, super bullish for Bitcoin. Moving on to Justin, billionaire Tim Draper says Bitcoin will replace the US dollar within 10 years or less. Bitcoin will become, quote, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's go, rocket. Do I agree with this? Oh, man. I don't know, man. Kraken Exchange agrees with it. You can see their comment. We like your thinking, Tim. 10 years. Here's the deal. I tend to give estimates as to where I think things are going to go. And what I typically come to find is that things just move a little bit slower than what I think. And so 10 years may seem like a long time. I am telling you guys, 10 years is not a long time. It's not this long. It's not long enough for that kind of a shift globally to happen. And then will it ever happen? Will it replace the US dollar? I mean, we'll see. That's the point of my username, World War Bitcoin. Do you think the United States government wants Bitcoin to replace the US dollar? I don't know, unless they created Bitcoin, the CIA, tinfoil hat, or unless they happen to control a large portion of the supply. But the dollar is power, and it seems difficult for me to believe that within 10 years, the United States is going to give up that power. So we already looked at this chart, but I just wanted to pull it up for perspective. This time looks much different than 2021 and 2027. It's already proven itself to be different. So what's the takeaway from this? Should you then be married to this idea that it's going to go the way it's always gone in the past, big blow off top in the fourth quarter of the post-halving year, when this time has already proven itself to be different? I mean, look at Ethereum's quarterly returns in the first quarter of 2025. I already talked about first quarter post-halving year, other comparisons, and then Q2. Q2 looks really good. Nice recovery for Ethereum. Let's keep this party going. We'll see what the rest of this looks like. But this idea that it has to, I really like this mindset from Edward Mora here. Sell in May and walk away. Usually summer's, all right. A little bit of a pet peeve of mine. Let's say second quarter. Let's not say summer. And the reason why I say not summer is because there happens to be an entire hemisphere where it will be winter. and whatever. I want to be inclusive to my Southern Hemisphere bros. But usually, summer is the worst time to be active in crypto, with few exceptions. Low volume, bleeding charts, dying trends, but maybe this year is going to be different. I like that mindset. Maybe this time is different. Historically, even during bear markets, Q1 was always green, positive. It has been the best average turnout of all quarters. But this year, instead, we had the worst Q1 for altcoins maybe ever. Yeah, 2018, percentage-wise for Ethereum, so maybe ever. The only other comparison is 2018. My goodness. So where were we? Maybe ever. Table one below shows ETH results, but you can apply it to almost any altcoin. Correct. A negative 45%, second worst for ETH and perhaps the worst for the rest of the market. Everything nuked 60 to 80% from January to April of 2025. If things continue to play out differently this year, maybe selling in May will not be a good idea, and we will get a bullish summer ahead. DeFi summer 2021 again, anyone? Yeah, DeFi summer 2020 was huge, was massive. And that was a time when Bitcoin was just ranging, So we will see where we go from here, Comet, or we get 2018 ? Let's hope not, but so far so good for Q2 of 2025. A very interesting chart from Benjamin Cohen here. Number of cryptocurrencies in the top 100 above their 100-day SMA. You can see the trend is moving higher. And I've just really never seen this chart before. So what happens historically when the trend moves higher is it continues to move higher. Let's just be real here. This is a good sign that we're going to continue to climb. And it's interesting. Is that the Bitcoin chart? Or is that the altcoin? That's got to be the altcoin. Yeah, that's the total altcoin market cap chart for sure. But this does look another thing. Altcoins, I've shared charts, I've shared perspectives as to very short-term altcoins are looking good. And how long are we going to go? I don't know, but let's ride this wave kind of mindset. And this looks like a wave that we should be riding for sure. So this should continue to climb. But moving on, I don't have much stock stuff to talk about today. Here's the only stock related thing that I have. NVIDIA announces strategic partnership with Humane to build AI factories in Saudi Arabia. Why do I care about this? Well, listen, I am going to be buying a lot of, if it destroys the human race, so be it. I'm going to make money short term though. Humanoid AI, I tend to think, I've shared my perspective on this before, that this is the early stages of a massive opportunity for you and I to make gains on that. And if NVIDIA is going to be a part of that, then even more of a reason to buy NVIDIA. And I am looking for I have shared my perspective on NVIDIA for the rest of this year. As of right now, I'm looking pretty dumb, but we still have plenty of the year to move forward on this. And how about we end on a sour note? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. North Star, the GOAT. Really, he's, I can't say enough about him, but big trouble ahead if this doesn't stop. The 10-year yield is not looking good. And what in the world, man? The 10-year yield just continues to climb. Negative news, 10-year yield pumps. Positive news, 10-year yield pumps. So here we are. Here's the TNX. And this is not moving in a direction that's favorable to lowering rates. It's not moving in a direction that's favorable to trust in the US dollar. Where are we going from here, guys? I've shared my perspective. I think that I still do believe this, that gold is going to outperform the stock market over the next 10 to 15 years. And this is not a good sign for the stock market on a long enough timeline, and it's definitely not a good sign for the US dollar. But how about we get excited for short term first, and we'll be concerned about long term later on, because this is very zoomed out. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you for riding with me in another video. If you haven't already, be greatly appreciated if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment in the comment section, all for Al Gore's rhythm. All right, have a good one. Peace.